Good morning and good afternoon from Brussels. I'm Ian Lesser from GMF here in Brussels, and it's really a pleasure to welcome all of you who are joining us virtually today, and our speakers, for this discussion on EU-Turkey relations in search of a positive agenda. For those who know us well, GMF, our mission really is very straightforward, very simple. It's to strengthen transatlantic cooperation. And for many years, we have placed the relationship with Turkey high on our agenda to talk about in the transatlantic context, but also, of course, in the more specific context of Turkey-European relations. That'll be our topic here today, but I don't want us to forget the transatlantic dimension as well. We have a new administration in Washington. There will be new issues arising in terms of what has been a very troubled relationship with Washington. And there is likely, in fact, both Washington and Brussels have signaled that there's an interest in having the relationship with Turkey be on the agenda in terms of US-EU relations. So that is coming. But really what I think it points to is the fact that, in a sense, we're all stakeholders in this relationship between Turkey and the European Union, all three sides of this triangle. And we'll get a chance to talk about that with really four wonderful speakers here today. I'll let my colleague Kadri Tastan, who's a senior fellow with us here in Brussels and the GMF-TOBB fellow here running our program with TOBB. We're very grateful to TOBB for that, but I'll turn this over to Kadri in a moment to introduce our guests today. But just to say, we're gonna look clearly at a number of very pressing questions. There are signs, signals from Ankara that there's an interest in improving what has been a really very stressful relationship in recent months and years. We'll get to discuss how clear those signals are, whether they're likely to be durable, what they might mean, what the interest is from the European side in working on what has been a very, very difficult relationship. But what is very clear, certainly from a transatlantic perspective, is the relationship between Europe and Turkey is not optional across a whole range of issues. And I'm sure we'll talk about those, whether we're talking about reinvention or stabilization or something else. Again, we have a wonderful group. I won't take more time, but except to thank all of you for joining us, to thank our speakers today, and to thank you, Kadri, and also my colleague, Özgür in Ankara, for putting this together. So, Kadri, without further ado, over to you, and I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Ian. Hello, everyone, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this discussion on EU-Turkey relations. It's my great pleasure to moderate it. And my name is Kadri Tastan. I'm GMF-TOBB Senior Fellow with the GMF here in Brussels. Indeed, in recent years, what characterized the relations between Turkey and the EU are successive crises, tensions concerning Ankara's intervention in regional conflict, its activities in the Eastern Mediterranean, migration, and the state of the rule of law in Turkey, etc. The list can be really, really long. Moreover, in the summer of 2020, as a result of Turkey's drilling and research activities in the Eastern Mediterranean, this crisis turned into threat of sanction in December, and the European Council set a deadline for Turkey to end these activities by March 2021. During the same meeting, the European Council also asked Mr. Borrell to prepare a report on the state of play of EU-Turkey political, economic, and trade relations, and on options how to proceed in relations. However, after a really difficult and tough period in these relations, Ankara is now, as Ian mentioned, now making some overture toward Brussels. Ankara has recently declared on several occasions its willingness to promote through partnership and normalization of its relations with the European Union. President Erdoğan even has even declared that it's ready to put the EU-Turkey relations back on track and turn a new page. And good news, in the meantime, the tension decreased in the Eastern Mediterranean for the moment, and Turkey and Greece resumed exploratory talks on maritime dispute after a 5-year break. And since then, we have seen a series of meetings between Ankara and Brussels. In January, President Erdoğan and President of the European Commission held a video conference call to discuss the EU-Turkey relations. In January, again, Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu was in Brussels to hold a series of high-level meeting. And this week we have again Turkish Deputy Minister in Brussels. So what does does it all mean, and what can we really expect as a concrete result? We will discuss with our speakers today. Is the current political situation in Turkey and Europe conducive to a normalization? What are the challenges or opportunities that lie ahead us? We will discuss all this with our great speakers, and for this we have a really great panel. Please let me to first introduce my guests. We have Miss Angelina Eichhorst. She's the Managing Director for Western Europe, Western Balkan, Turkey, and United Kingdom at the European External Action Service. Our second speaker is Professor Fuat Keyman. Professor Keyman is the director and also member of executive board of the Istanbul Policy Center. Our third speaker is Professor Güven. Professor Sak is managing director at the Economic Policy Research Foundation of Turkey. And our fourth speaker is Željana Zovko. Ms. Zovko is member of European Parliament and also newly elected chair of EU-Turkey Forum. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today. We are delighted to have you today for this discussion. First of all, as a moderator, I will ask some questions to our four speakers and have a conversation with them. Then we will, of course, open to all of you. And just to say that this is on the record. And if you would like to put a question, there is a Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom window, and we will keep track them, and we will get as many of you as we can. And please specify also to whom you are asking your question. There is let me to precise that there is a really huge interest in this conversation. You are 700 people registered for this event, and so I apologize in advance if we are unable to answer all your questions, which will be practically impossible during such a limited time. So with that, I would like to turn to you, Ms. Eichhorst. You have 7 or 8 minutes. How do you see the state of EU-Turkey relations, and what are your expectations for the future? And of course, we will be interested to hear your views about the recent rapprochement effort and challenges ahead. I'm asking all my questions. There won't be several. I'm just putting all my questions now for you. And what are some of the likely positive agenda items and how feasible they are? And of course, as a GMF is a transatlantic organization, I would like you to bring also the transatlantic dimension and how does the Biden administrations can affect also these relations. Over to you, Ms. Eichhorst. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kadri, and also Ian. Thank you for framing this discussion. I'm really glad I can participate. This is not usually interesting and important for me for the work I'm doing, but also institutionally for the European Union, for our policy making, for the steps ahead. And I really appreciate the audience and my fellow speakers, my good friends, Željana, Fuat, Güven. It's really nice to be with you. What I thought to do is, I think the framing you gave is correct. We are in a stage of de-escalation, deconfliction, and trying to find the ways ahead. But we should never ever forget how important the relationship is with Turkey for the European Union. I always put, the 450 million people of the EU with the 85 million in Turkey. It's huge, vast population, vast economies, vast GDPs. We have the $20 trillion on our side, 650 billion on the Turkish side. Huge interest, very deeply rooted history, culture. We went through many ups and downs together, but it's a relationship which is, 1, extremely important, 2, very complex, and 3, if it goes wrong, there's a huge risk. So it is important to see that in the perspective, and I think all the member states and the leaders of the European Union have given that signal very clearly in October and in December last year, of the importance of the relationship and also the necessity to work ourselves through our differences and to find a way out of where we differ. What are the European Union interests and what are Turkey's interests? And it's true that now, leading up to the March European Council, a lot of, I would say, talks, discussions at all different levels are ongoing to define exactly that. Where do our interests converge? Where do they diverge? And what are the commonalities? And how can we best work together for the interests of the EU and for the interests of Turkey? So first and foremost, it's important that all channels are open. I say that as a diplomat, but I truly believe that in all the different strands now ongoing, that the telephone lines are working, the meetings are happening, despite COVID, that we still meet via WebEx or elsewhere, that we talk when we differ, and that we try to establish trust as much as we can. Because obviously in such a huge relation between the EU and Turkey, trust is a key element. We have to be able to trust each other. Turkey has to trust the European Union on our intentions, and we have to trust Turkey on its intentions. And very often what you then want to work on is to avoid surprises, to prepare each other for where we want to move next and what do we want to do. You mentioned, I think it was you, Kadri, or maybe Ian mentioned the visit of the Deputy Foreign Minister, Sedat Önal, in town in Brussels. Very important that we look at with him, and we did that over the past days, where our interests regionally together. What are the EU interests in Libya, Turkey, Libya interest in Libya, in Syria, in Nagorno-Karabakh, in Iraq, and elsewhere. That's one part of the relation, but the relationship is so complex, and all of you know, it goes from the economy to culture, customs union, visa, migration, transport, energy, education, agriculture, the whole bit. I always say Turkey is that one partner where all the institutions of the European Union are fully at work. Not to forget the European Parliament, of course. And I'm sure that Željana will share with you, but with the new parliament in place, there have been also many, many critical voices on where is this relation going. So for the moment, we are all trying to focus on what are the commonalities. We have a clear agenda. It's right there in front of us in the European Council conclusions of December. What the European leaders are asking for is for the talks between Greece and Turkey, not just to take place one time, but more than one time, to see a process, to go back to not just exploratory, but confidence-building talks, truly confidence-building talks and working out the differences. And there are quite a few that need to be resolved. On the Cyprus talks, it's very clear. The leaders have agreed they want to see an early resumption of these talks led by the United Nations. From the European Union, we are supporting the United Nations in the efforts. We are supporting that both sides, the Greek Cypriot, the Turk Cypriot side, find a solution to their differences. We believe this is now more important than ever because we believe that these questions have to be resolved and have left for too long out there unresolved. And then there is the basket, so it's the Greek-Turkey basket, Cyprus-Turkey. And then there is the European Union Turkey. It's the third strand, so to say, where we are working on possible elements of a possible positive agenda. That is a very important signal from the leaders of the European Union. And we also see from coming out of Ankara, the signals of the keen interest in working together. My message is that we work step by step. And we have to be realistic in terms of expectations and in terms of outcome. It is very important, as I said, that trust is being rebuilt on both sides, on all different sides. It's also very important that there are no, so to say, surprises, that we sort of keep the channels with each other open, and if there are spats, because this is a bumpy road in diplomacy, but if there are spats that we can actually help, but through the contact with each other and through the talks, that we sort of keep elements where they belong in its place. Media do not always help, but okay, that's the task of the media. But we do want to make sure that wherever there are uncertainties, questions, statements made, issues brought to the fore, that these can actually be worked out between all the parties concerned. A last element of the different strands, as I mentioned them, is the possible organization of a regional meeting or an East Med conference. Work has been ongoing on that because we find it is interesting to have and important to have a format where all partners in the region actually get around the table. But this is not something for tomorrow. This also needs to be prepared diligently, carefully, in the right timing, in the right place. So apart from the message I would like to give and share with you, and this is the message we give to all our partners, apart from saying, you know, we work step by step and keep the expectations realistically, we also have to work over time. And what is important is that all partners trust each other again to work on an agenda that possibly could include all elements. As I said, the customs union, visa liberalization, migration, further support for refugees, further support for the economy. It's very important. There are many elements here, Kadri. I'm happy to answer questions on that throughout the discussions, as long as I'm here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eichhorst. Thank you. Professor Keyman, I would like to continue with you. I would like to hear your view on the state of EU-Turkey relations and the way forward to. What are your expectations? I mean, from Ankara's move towards the EU to decrease the tension, and I would like to also you to bring the transatlantic dimension and how the Biden administration can potentially affect these relations. Over to you.
Thank you, Kadri. Let me begin by thanking you, Kadri, and Ian, and also GMF people, friends, for inviting me to this talk. It's an important meeting, and in my short time, let me actually go in a telegraphic form. First, as Ian said, you know, the transatlantic dimension is back. So I think we should actually think about Turkey-EU relations, not in the way that the Turkish government did in the recent past through decoupling, you know, sort of EU and the United States. But I think now that there's a very important transatlantic context, which will be pushed by United States and the European Union. The second the point is that multilateralism is back in a very assertive form. I think Turkey's foreign policy strategy based on what has been called strategic autonomy is over. I think Turkey will be pushed, Ankara will be pushed to actually go for more sort of a multilateral way of dealing with issues from Cyprus to East Mediterranean, from Syria to the other issues. And thirdly, because of what happened in the United States in the 6th and 7th of January, you know, democracy is back. I think multilateralism with democracy will be very, very actually important. That means for me that for Turkey, for Ankara, the idea of carrying Turkey-EU relations, US relations on the basis of what can be called transactionalism without democracy, that is over too. I think there will be a very important democracy dimension, which actually makes me happy. So we've been actually talking about the importance of democracy in the way in which we actually try to revitalize, re-energize Turkey-EU relations. So in this sense, with the new positive agenda, I think there are new dimensions. One actually is transatlantic context. Second actually is what I call assertive multilateralism, assertive diplomacy. Ankara will be pushed actually to shift from from strategic autonomy to a much more multilateral way of dealing with foreign policy issue, and an emphasis, strong emphasis that will be placed on democracy. So it is kind of a multilateralism with democracy, I think, will be on the agenda. And if we are going to have a positive agenda on the table, I think we should actually pay attention to these new development, this new dimensions, and in that sense, actually, let me actually underline the importance of assertive that I actually put to sort of through multilateralism and diplomacy. I think there will be also a kind of a push from the United States, from the EU towards Ankara, that I think they have to have some kind of coherent strategy that will operate on the base of multilateral and then much more actually sort of emphasis on democracy. That means in terms of assertiveness, what we have on the table is, on the one hand, a positive agenda, which actually we like to push. And I agree with Angelina that there are actually really possible avenues where we could actually do this, but at the same time there will be sort of sanctions on the table too. So it's a kind of a interesting moment we are actually going through, and we will see actually the European position in March when Mr. Borrell actually come up with this report on Turkey. So it is a kind of a combination of positive agenda and sanctions. And I think from Turkey's civil society organizations' point of view, we actually push a positive agenda with democracy, and I think it is the choice of Turkey, the choice of Ankara, to actually make a decision what they're gonna do with Turkey's relation with not only EU and then also the US and transatlantic context. Secondly, in the way in which we talk about positive agenda, I think we should also change our idea of how to approach Turkey. One mistake that was made by our European friends and also from Turkey was to equate Turkey with the strong leadership, Mr. Erdoğan, equate Turkey with the AK Party rule. And we've been actually accustomed to actually look at Turkey-EU relations, Turkey-US relations on the basis of the idea of Turkey, which is based on the dominant government, weak opposition way. And that's untenable. And I think Turkey is very complex and resilient. And there is a very actually sort of vibrant, opposition parties, vibrant local governance, vibrant civil society organizations. We were actually having a meeting with new EU ambassador to Turkey, to Ankara, Nicholas Meyer-Landrut. And so in this sense, he actually, in that meeting, rightly pointed out the importance of thinking about Turkey, especially in terms of sanctions, without damaging local governments, without damaging civil society, without damaging, universities, without damaging civil society. I think we should also think of Turkey going going beyond this, untenable right now formula, the dominant party and weak opposition. I think it's much more, complex in the sense that there are new voices, especially from municipalities. Turkey is a very urban society, very key cities, and they are actually, for positive agenda. They are for the multilateralism. They are for transatlantic context. They are for democracy. I think our EU friends should pay attention, scant attention, not to damage those voices in Turkey that are actually going for positive agenda. So in this sense, I think we have a much more larger, broader understanding of Turkey with its complexity and resilience. I call it resilient Turkey with its new actors and everything. And then thirdly, just briefly, 6 years ago, President Joe Biden came to Turkey to visit the Istanbul Policy Center and Checks and Balance Group. we've been actually having a project, what is called the Checks and Balance Network, which was monitoring Turkey's checks and balance culture from bottom, based on civil society organizations. We have actually right now 300 civil society organizations that are, doing this. And 6 years ago, this was a very actually fruitful and productive meeting. And Mr. Biden, at that time, he was the vice president. We had a 75 minutes talk about the importance of civil society and checks and balances in Turkey, by which I mean the independence of judiciary, separation of powers, equal citizenship, and strong local governance. Since then, with the partnership with the GMF, we've been always actually, in Brussels, in Berlin, in Washington, pushing the importance of, locating the idea of checks and balances at the center of Turkey-EU relations, Turkey-US relations, because that is a very institutional way of looking at it that goes beyond the personal binary pro-Erdoğan, anti-Erdoğan kind of sentiments. So I think when we talk about democracy, we shouldn't be at the level of normativity. We should really look at the institutional structure of democracy based on checks and balances. I think there is a push from United States too to actually look at the relations, foreign affairs on the basis of democracy and checks and balances. I think finally, what I would say, in addition to migration issue, in addition to what Angelina very nicely said, actually migration, visa liberalization, economy, all of these relations, I think we should actually have a new positive agenda in which the checks and balances, more institutional, critic of the governance of Turkey should be at the center of these relations. So assertive multilateralism with emphasis on democracy, I think should be the beginning of how to envision Turkey-EU relations in the near future in 2020 and 2022. And let me underline one more time the importance of not damaging the alternative voices in Turkey, whose discourses, strategies are always very positive for Turkey's EU anchor, Copenhagen political criteria, multilateralism, and so forth.
Thank you so much for this, Professor Keyman. Ms. Zovko, I would like to turn to you now. We know that the European Parliament generally has a different point of view from other European institutions on the state of EU-Turkey relations, which is quite normal. So we would be interested to hear your point of view on this relationship. And in your opinion, what are the prospects, for de-escalation between EU and Turkey after this recent exchange of warmish message, let's say? And another question that I would love to have your comments is, what are some of, I asked to the other speaker as well, some likely positive agenda items that you think that we can bring, and how feasible are they? And I would love to have your comment also on the migration issue and this a prospect for the future of EU-Turkey and potential maybe new deal, or please, over to you.
Right, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this really interesting and very timely panel to talk about future prospect and the future relations between Turkey and EU. I will speak as in my new role as a chairwoman of EU-Turkey Forum, and this is a very sensitive duty at this time to undertake. I don't think that there were many people who were daring to take over this position, as it requires also much diplomacy and sensitivity in dealing with our future relations. I must tell you in all honesty that I don't envy Madam Angelina Eichhorst in her role as a diplomat in these turbulent time, because at the next council, and especially next fact, she will have to deal with such a strained atmosphere that are the consequences of heated speeches that were coming. I mean, we first had the recent issues in Russia, and all the issues that we had with Turkey in the last year, and especially all this fire that was coming from a Turkish side and orientated towards European Union. And we, as a representative of directly elected representative of European citizens, and we are really responsible for delivering back home on what we are doing to prevent all this negative language that was going towards European Union. And it's not, and as a politicians also have to speak much more, I would say, directly. So you have seen all the talks that we had in the plenary session. You have seen all the responses and all the calls for the suspension and for the freezing of further negotiations with Turkey. I'm also IPA co-rapporteur, and that's my main task in ensuring that the money that is there for helping Turkey to deal with migration issue, and for also honoring the difficult duty that Turkey has undertaken over the years in hosting the biggest flow of migrants that we have visited. That was the last visit of Foreign Affairs Committee that we had undertaken before this pandemic. And we went to Syrian border, we went to see how Turkey is dealing with migration issues. We have seen the officials, and we had some hopes that these relations will improve. But then all the issues that we had to deal after that, the crisis in Eastern Mediterranean, Nagorno-Karabakh issue, and the really aggressive and assertive Turkish foreign policy in that respect, and the dealings with Cyprus issue did not leave much space for maneuvering, especially knowing that you have to deal with the new MEPs here who really don't understand that once you cut these ties, what is the way out? And how can we mend the way out? These bridges that we blow in just suspending and freezing and finishing the talks with Turkey. So my role, and as I'm coming from Southeast Europe, I'm Croat, and I'm representing Croat's constituency, and Croatia had a long-standing relations with Turkey during the time of President Demirel, who was really good, big friend of President Tudjman. We know how good Turkey can be and how excellent example it can show in a really difficult time, and how sensitive it is to deal with religious affairs and with religious conflicts and with the disturbance among migrant population, sending the messages among diaspora as well. So these are all the issues that I'm trying to explain to Turkish politicians who are asking how can we change this difficult atmosphere that is still here in the parliament. And I'm speaking in all honesty, and I just cannot behave like I'm not a diplomat. The atmosphere towards Turkey in European Parliament is a very bad one. And I told a politician from Turkey, it's not enough only to send, in the charming, offensive few of your ministers, or to send few messages and make few phone calls with Germany. I mean, you have to walk the talk. And there must be real changes of a narrative inside the Turkey. We must see improvement in respect of the civil society, in respect of the journalists, in respect of the liberties of a protest. And in all these fields that my colleagues here are highly sensitive. So when we are seeing these practical issues being shown on the spot back home, because people are watching and we have all our channels, we are still investing in civil society, then this charming offensive back home can be much better explained, because you have to explain this this need for improvement and the continuation and of negotiations with Turkey as a partner and not as adversary. With every member of the parliament have to go back home and to explain, but with the concrete examples. Like French MEPs have to go to France, have to go to Paris, and have to face their publics, their constituency, and have to talk what really has happened, what has improved, because the trade is not enough. I mean, it's not, it is enough, it is good for German MEPs to go back and say, okay, good, because they have a huge Turkish constituency. And in Germany, it's much easier to explain why do we need, or in Croatia, why do we need to continue, and why do we need to work harder with the Turkey, and that it's not all so bad. But we need to have the agreement, we need to have support from all our colleagues. And believe me, I mean, I undertook this difficult duty not because I thought it's some sort of a friendship group that will only flatter you and tell you how beautiful you are. Of course, we all adore Istanbul and Turkish are the best host, and everybody loves Turkish history, and we have a shared common heritage, we share common history. But friends need to be honest in order to improve our relations, and especially when we are talking about transatlantic relations. I'm a shadow rapporteur for United States of America for the new report. And the new Biden administration, I'm absolutely sure that they will be really even harsher on their language. They're going back into multilateral fora, into UN organization. They think they will take over this, but that's not the case. European Union is the one who is paying 40% into UN, a multilateral organization. We like and we are welcoming our American partners, and this is the best way we can cooperate together. But what we expect from Turkey is to understand as well that European Union, with its messages, with financing, with NDC, this instrument for development, we have many hearts that we have won in this multilateral fora as well. And we will not stop. It's the same values, the same things that we are asking in our bilateral relations. It will be asked in multilateral fora. I mean, I know that. And the best way to work with Turkey in all aspects is to understand that something really back home has to change in order to get better. And I think for Turkey, it's much better to work closer with European Union than to expect to work better with any other ally, because Turkey, in its nature, and as you have rightly said, it's a more you have a tradition. You are like your population is much more in the cities. You're so developed, but this civility, this tolerance, and this sort of welcoming and tolerance towards the others has to come out in the open much more. I mean, my message may be a harsh one, but we have I don't know if I have read my speech, it was even much stronger, so that my assistant has prepared for me. But on many issues that I wanted to to point out where we have cut our relations and where we, why. I mean, I'm somebody who have criticized Turkey on many occasions openly, but not Turkey as a country, but the behavior of President Erdoğan in situation where this speech maybe worked during the time when My Way or Highway was popular. But now with the new Biden administration, that has changed. We don't have that anymore. So this new policy, and I guess a new democratic policy, is we have to be inclusive, we have to be open, and we have to look for the friends. Because this is a turbulent world, and as opposed to the growing influence of China, I think that Turkey really has much more in common with European Union than with anybody else.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Zovko. Thank you. Professor Saka, I would like to turn to you now. With you, I want to ask to go a little bit out of political field to talk about the economy and the trade, even if it is also affected by the political problems, of course. And if the political barriers are removed, how do you see the trade cooperation between for Turkey with the EU after Brexit? And the nature of relations between Turkey and the EU requires the development of an original model that would include maybe the elements of the EU's cooperation models with the third countries. I'm conscious that Turkey is still technically a candidate country, but we know that is going nowhere. So we should also speak about something else. So there are several countries, I mean, that have special relations, such as Norway, Ukraine, Canada, or South Korea. And now there is also this UK-EU model. And how do you see the future of the custom union between Turkey and the EU? And the same question to you, what can be really a positive agenda for Turkey with the European Union? And I know that you have been writing a lot lately on the Green Deal, and we know that Turkey has not even ratified the Paris Agreement yet. And how the Green Deal, I would like to have your comment on that, can be a positive agenda potentially. Over to you, Professor. You have to unmute, Professor. Thanks.
Okay. So thank you very much. And let me start with the title that you have chosen. It says, you know, it's not about EU-Turkey relations in general, as far as I understand. It's about searching for a positive agenda. I remember how this positive agenda debate has started. You know, it was in 2007, 2008, when the usual process was stalled. So I think everybody has to have that in mind in talking about where we are in terms of the EU-Turkey relations today. Because when our usual agenda, the accession process, stopped for political reasons, let's say, then we started to look for a more transactional new agenda, a positive agenda to talk about in order to improve EU-Turkey relations, because the usual thing has stopped. We shouldn't forget about that. So if we are to talk more about, you know, improving the EU-Turkey relations, there is a whole lot of an agenda already existing that can easily be touched upon and discussed. First of all, let me underline that. And secondly, when we talk about this positive agenda, you know, in 2016, after the Syrian crisis, we had the migration that's used as a kind of a positive agenda item. And now I think I see a broad opening regarding the Green Deal process. It started earlier than COVID-19, December 2019. But I think in order to get out of this mess for all countries, including Turkey, green transformation looks to be a good opportunity. And when you look at green transformation, it's not only about climate, it's not only about climate policy, it's also industrial policy about overhauling the economy. I mean, by using the new technologies, improving the growth and job creation opportunities in the existing industries, existing sectors, I think is one issue. And also with this, as EU is trading with everybody, and with the existence of this border tax, border carbon equalization tax debate, I think it is also a foreign policy instrument. So I think it is, by nature, a Green Deal is a kind of a, opens up new possibilities for a positive agenda in dealing with our issues. First of all, everybody mentioned about these ups and downs. Let me say a few words about the ups and downs. I mean, politically, there were many ups and downs. I have already noted that the actual process, the candidacy process, the accession process has already stopped more than 10 years ago. And EU and Turkey has been in a kind of a, early customs union agreement, which lasted now about 25, 26 years, I think. So no question that it has to be renewed, but we do not also have mechanisms to renew that too. But despite all these, I think this relationship worked very well on the economy side. So if you look at the Turkish economy now, is an integral part of the European economy, of the EU economy. There is no question about that. And the customs union deal, the relations with the EU has changed Turkey, turned Turkey into an industrial country. I mean, if you look at our exports, industrial exports, mostly industrial exports to the EU, it's more than 50% of our exports now that are now going to the EU. And if you look at, especially after the accession process has started, if you look at till that time, the foreign direct investments into the Turkish economy, around 70% of them have been coming from and is still coming from the EU countries. So I think we have a working economic relation. There is no question about that, and Turkey is part of the European economy, and that's why anything that's happening that's going to affect the European economy, any kind of transformation that's going to be important in the European economy is going to be important for the Turkish economy too. First of all, the border equalization tax. EU is our major export partner, more than 50% of our exports. So we have to talk. We have to start talking about this issue first. Secondly, as I have already noted, most of around 70% of foreign direct investments into Turkey are coming from the European countries, are coming from the EU countries. So when you look at the FDI that's going to come into Turkey, when you look at the already existing European value chains that are operating in Turkey, I think we need to talk about those too with regard to the green transformation process. It may be more important to some countries of the EU, but it is definitely important. And thirdly, I think it is important because Green Deal or this green transformation process is a kind of industrial policy, and it's about technological change to apply these low carbon new technologies to the existing sectors in the EU. And I think in order not to lose competitiveness, Turkish economy needs to be part of that too. So when you look at the opportunities there, both for the European companies and for the Turkish companies, I see if this thing is going to continue on the transactional basis from now on, I see a great opening when it comes to the Green Deal, when it comes to the green transformation. I'm not mentioning about all the issues like energy transition, energy efficiency, changes in the construction materials industry that needs to be achieved as quickly as possible in Turkey. All these things are important to improve our trade, but all these things also are going to transform our economy, our industries also. So in that manner, if you look at it from that way, the EU is going to continue its transformation of the Turkish economy, because as I have noted, EU is important for the transformation of the Turkish economy so far. And when you look at the situation in Turkey, in terms of, you know, highly indebted countries, companies, troubled banks, and also high CDS risk premiums in the country, I think there is the need for, from the Turkish side too, there is the need for more interaction, more engagement when it comes to the Green Deal process. So I think we need to consider Turkey as part of the green transformation process, which is very much important, as I have noted, for the jobs and growth agenda, job creation and growth agenda in the post-COVID-19 period. You have also asked about this, you know, possible cooperation areas on the third countries. Let me put it that way. I see a great potential. You know, for example, if you look at Asia now, China is very active in terms of laying the basis for the connectivity between the countries. They are doing an important job in the region. But I think when you look at connectivity, there is a hardware issue, you know, building roads, building railways, connecting countries together. But there is also a software issue, which is very much important, like the rules for the border crossing, and also the rules for the traffic, the rules for, you know, how can I say that, the digital governance issues that are going to be important in the region. I think in those areas, I see again a broad opening for working together to do things to improve the situation in our connectivity with those regions, especially in Central Asia, I think. So let me stop here. I don't want to enter into the debate about politics. I only have noted, let me reiterate that and stop saying anything. If we are going back to the usual agenda, then we can discuss more things. But if we are still on the transactional part, then I think a Green Deal, like the migration, is a very important new opportunity for us. We shouldn't forget that this is mutual, like in the migration case, because what we did with the migration deal, Turkey was kind of a transit country before the migration deal in 2016, I think. What we did was we turned Turkey, we agreed to turn Turkey into a destination country with the migration deal. I think we did a great service at that time, and it's still working as far as I know. So let me stop here.
Thank you, Professor Sak. Thank you so much. I will open to the Q&A, but before that, Ms. Eichhorst, I would like to have a really brief comment on from you on the report that Mr. Borrell is preparing. What we should really expect from this report? I mean, for example, a new model for EU-Turkey relations, or an end of accession process, something innovative, or?
Thanks again, Kadri, and very interesting debate so far. I look also a little bit at the questions. I will come back to your point immediately, Kadri, but I can see that some have been asking about the few points which, for sake of discussion, I did not immediately mention. But we always, when you keep the full picture of EU-Turkey, and when you make your analysis at which point we were high, which point we were low, and for what reason, I only want to go back basically at the point where the relations also bilaterally with member states went really sour. And that was obviously due to the domestic situation in Turkey. It was due to the absence of fair trial, the absence of rule of law. And there has been a lot, not just from member states individually, but from all of the EU collectively, calling for Turkey to work as a candidate country, as a key partner on an open, vibrant society, giving voice to all. And I believe it was Fuat who said, don't damage the voices of the people who come out and ask for such a society, I fully agree with you, Fuat. I think it's in the first and foremost keen interest of Turkey itself to have that open, vibrant society. If you want to focus on the economy, if you want to focus on your relations with your neighbors, on your security, on progress, development, and that is the basis you need to have in a society. I think we all agree on that. Perhaps I didn't mention it up front because we are very much in this mental setting of de-escalation, deconfliction, calming the sea, calming the rhetoric, calming the environment, have a consolidated basis from which we can make a next step. So I answer you, Kadri, what is the HRVP going to do in March? It's a little early to say so. We still have time. Obviously, as I said, a lot of work is ongoing to give a state of play of where we are between EU and Turkey. This is what the HRVP has been asked to do by the leaders. It's then up to the leaders to decide what will be the next step. And this, of course, I cannot even venture on now because I really don't know what the leaders are going to discuss. But, and this is, I want to link this to what I said earlier on expectations. Because some may think that because of a few actions, we can go high again, or because of a few actions, we can go very low again. I'm trying to say, you know, we have to calibrate this. We have to calibrate and we have to take our time. There are processes which do take time before they can consolidate. Cyprus settlement talks is one. If these don't take off, if there's no process there, if nothing is really happening, and I see I have a question also in the box on it, as such, we do fully support United Nations Security Council resolutions in this regard, and we will continue to do so. But again, the parties need to find a common ground and they need to start talking. They need to work this out because in absence, the risk is too high that we go back to a framing of escalation and measures and tit for tats and an absolute no-go. A very quick comment on Güven's points, very valid on Green Deal connectivity, and it was also in the chat box. I believe there's a huge potential here for EU-Turkey cooperation on Green Deal, digitalization, all the aspects which are now part of the European New Generation agenda, and where Turkey shows a keen interest, as Turkey did for energy, for transport, for all those sectors where indeed we can inject this innovation and this support. We will continue to do so, but I feel it very strongly from Ankara that this interest is there. So that could maybe part of a new package. It's possible. It's too early to tell now, but we are very open to a lot of ideas on this. And my last point on COVID-19, yes, there is further support being discussed, being worked out, including for the refugees hosted in Turkey, the vast number, the highest number per population in the world. Further support is definitely envisaged in this regard. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eichhorst. A question to you, Professor Keyman, is from Henry Barkey. Saying is that is interesting point that Europe should not equate Turkey with the strongman leadership of country. That said, we know that the populist leaders, including our last president, US, they tend to prioritize their own interests over all others. How do you circumvent this problem? Even if there is a change, how can outsiders trust that new approach is real and would be long-standing?
I mean, of course, there is no guarantees. I mean, you know, from a point of view of a civil society, from where I talk, you know, we pay scant attention to the importance of Turkey's EU anchor to keep the Turkey on the right track towards democracy. In terms of you know, foreign relations, we prefer multilateralism and the transatlantic context over Eurasianism or strategic autonomy. These are very important things for Turkey, and we have to push this. And there are actors in Turkey who are actually pushing this from local governance. For instance, what Güven is talking about, low carbon economic development, Syrian refugees, refugee deal, economic development. I think Istanbul municipality, Ankara municipality, Izmir municipality, all bunch of municipalities are doing a great job, and they are actually, pushing this actually new positive agenda on the basis of not only democracy, but also what is called SDGs, sustainable, development goals. And I think there is a vision of Turkey that is emerging from local governance. There is a emerging from civil society, from universities. I work in Istanbul Policy Center, and with TOBB, Güven and I have been talking about working on Green Deal, which is very, very important. I think is a very important part of the new agenda. This Green Deal contribute low carbon, economic development, and doing something about this. Checks and balances. I think one of the mistakes that was made before, last couple of years is both parties. It was okay to continue these relations, carry out these relations on the basis of transactionalism without democracy. And so let's actually focus on Syrian refugees. Let's focus on the Daesh. Let's focus on the other issues. But let's forget about democracy. Let's forget about checks and balances. I think the price was very high, and even the United States actually, we saw it actually after the election on the 6th and 7th of January that it's a big price you could pay actually if you forget about democracy. I think we should actually think about multilateralism, think about positive agenda by placing special importance on democracy on the basis of checks and balances. I think when you push low carbon economic development, it should be coupled with democracy. When you push a refugee deal, it should be coupled with democracy. When you think about Turkey, you should actually look at the number of actors who are talking about these things too. So in this sense, I in a realistic position, I started my talk by stating that we have positive agenda in front of us, but also we have sanctions in front of us, and sanctions are not coming only from EU, coming from United States too. In the Biden administration, within the transatlantic context, there is an effort to actually sort of better its U.S. relations with Turkey, but democracy will be a very, very important dimension in it. I think Ankara knows this. Ankara might actually push to continue these relations without very much emphasis on democracy, but we shouldn't do this anymore. I think, if we are going to have a positive agenda, we should actually first recognize that Turkey is a complex society. There's a vibrant civil society. There's a vibrant opposition. There are new voices. And I think they need to be heard. I am not saying that the EU should ally with the new voices. I'm saying that, EU's approach to Turkey should not damage, those voices and their demands. It's a very complex society. And what makes me sad actually is this. Turkey as it is, as Güven said, have a lot to offer to the EU from Green Deal, refugee deal, economic dynamism, urbanization, all bunch of actually issues, multilateralism and so on and so forth. But all of these possible, positivities have been hijacked by actually, transactionalism without democracy. I think it is time to actually pay attention to democracy. And I know from Washington, I know from different capitals of Europe that right now, transactionalism with democracy is back. And it is the choice of Turkey's governance, the Ankara, and they're gonna actually do this, but let's not miss this chance. If we are going to have a positive agenda, we should actually do this by paying attention to democracy.
Please, we have a lot of questions. If you can keep it briefly to answer the question, it would be great. And the next question is on the Cyprus issue. from Kostas Miltiades. He's asking, given President Erdoğan's statement supporting two-state solution, how one can expect that progress can be achieved during the upcoming round of negotiation, and how could the EU exert its leverage on this issue in support of the UNSG's efforts? Who would like to answer this question? Please go ahead. Professor Sak, would you like to say something? Go ahead. And yourself.
Let me start saying a few words about where we are now in Turkey, just following up what Fuat has just said. You know, this is a country at the end where ballot box is still working very properly, first of all. And if you look at the things that are happening, I mean, we are now in a kind of a course correction period. That's what I see it in the last 3 months. It is quite messy. It's not that, it may be because of the fact that Turkey is too complex, but I think it only shows that the decision makers in Ankara know that the situation that we were in 3 months ago was not sustainable. I think that's the position that needs to be underlined. And since that time, we are having more high-level meetings with foreign investors. We are hearing more about rule of law and democracy. We are hearing more about the new constitution. And if you look at what constitution means, constitution is composed of, you know, a small part of it is about human rights, basic rights, etc. And a larger portion is about how the government system is to be designed in that country. So bringing the constitution debate to the fore means that there is going to be more discussion on Turkey regarding how Turkey is to be governed. I think in that vivid civic society environment, we'll have more debates as far as I see. And there is this understanding that the thing is not moving forward. Regarding Cyprus, I think, for a very long period of time, like the EU process stalled, the intercommunal talks also had stalled in the island. I think that's a frustration, especially on the Turkish side. So when I hear all those declarations, the recent declarations that I'm saying, despite all those, I think Turkey is very much open and is supporting what UN Secretary General has already mentioned. I think it is good to start the intercommunal talks once more since Crans-Montana. I mean, I forgot how many years ago it was now, 2 or 3 years, I think. So the two parts, the two communities on the island did not have any direct contact regarding the future of the island in the last 2 or 3 years. I think you have to consider those declarations about the future of the island at the moment as a reflection of that frustration, first of all. It doesn't seem to me as a kind of a precondition for starting the intercommunal talks.
Thank you. Thank you. Another question to you both, Ms. Eichhorst and Ms. Zovko, from Soropoulos, Mr. Soropoulos. The US he said that the US has framed this discussion with Turkey and puts kind of red lines, and then says that the EU actually, what are the EU's red lines with Turkey?
You know, I did not mention the US side and the new administration, not on purpose, but it's just nice to divide a bit the discussion here. I must say, we, as EU, we've had excellent cooperation with the United States on Turkey. I expect a lot from the new administration. It was already mentioned. And I see that the United States, this administration definitely is going to focus a lot on the rule of law as well, which we have been doing all the time. But also the previous administration, because in the State Department, most of the people stayed there, some left, but they are now in other positions. So it's very good for us as well. This will be a strong EU-US relationship for sure. And we also see that with EU-NATO in a way, because that is important. Our EU-NATO work together also in terms of where is Turkey. This is because, again, what happened in the Eastern Mediterranean is a security question for all of us, for not just for the region, but for the whole of the EU. So red lines, I don't like to use the term red lines for different reasons, but I do believe that the leaders of the European Union have been crystal clear in October and in December again on what are the expectations at this point in time, right? And I think that is how these, again, I ask the audience, read again this text. It's a dry council conclusion text, but it's hugely important to read there that the European Union sees the importance of a mutually beneficial relationship with Turkey for all the reasons I mentioned before. And the EU is not saying we don't like Turkey, we don't want Turkey. No, to the contrary, we really want to work with you here. But please play with the same book, along the same rules, with the same interests. And if we diverge, let us be honest about it, but let's not get in each other's way. And this is the kind of relationship we're trying to build now.
Yes, Eichhorst, thank you so much. Ms. Zovko, before you are answering this question, I want to put another question that will be also related to this. I mean, there are a number of questions whether political conditions on rule of law and human rights would be sacrificed for a positive agenda. So please, you can also answer this question. And if the other speakers want to answer this question, they're welcome. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, I will follow up on what Angelina has said. It's very difficult to mention what the red lines and sacrifice something like rule of law and women's rights. We are coming back to what I have said before. The communication between Brussels and Ankara, on many occasions we had the open lines, but this communication was not translated well back into Turkey, that we don't sacrifice anything. So this talk can be just served for one or 2 days. It's a long, it doesn't last longer. You always hit the wall when you come then back to the Parliament, European Parliament, because here we don't allow any sacrifices. And I think that what is not communicated well back in Turkey is that all this support the Turkish citizens have for continuation of negotiations with European Union. And there was never said that the European Union doesn't want Turkey as its member. This is not something that you can hear, but we don't. But the fact is that no one wants to sacrifice our values, and in order to become a member, you have to take the membership and also to accept the principles of this membership. And these are the values that we cherish here and that we are agreeing on. I mean, we are having this report on Turkey that we have adopted with majority of the deputies. You can never have all groups agreeing on one report if any, and passing some of the amendments that put these values into questions. So, you know, it doesn't matter whichever country wants to become a member of European Union. You can just close your eyes and say that, and don't take into account what, you know, sometimes somebody says it's because of the religion, we don't want Turkey, it's because of this and that. It's not true. It was always the question of accepting the values and the principles that European Union will never sacrifice. It's, you know, it's either that or nothing. So I don't think that anyone will have a mandate to sacrifice these values in order to so-called improve on short-term relations. And this has to be clear.
Thank you so much, Ms.
I don't know. I was a bit harsh in my answer, but that will be much more clear when you have talks with the Biden administration, because all they are focusing on in their internal dialogue in the United States of America is much more exigeant. It's much more demanding than what we are having at the moment here in the European Union. So as I said already, it's much better to have a European Union as a partner and go hands in hand, and then negotiate with other countries on this multilateral fora and this peace and security issue. Because for us, Turkey has to be stable, for us, Turkey, we don't want the neighbors who are unstable. We want them to be members. That's why we are having this enlargement strategy. Croatia was the biggest advocate for enlargement for Western Balkan, for Turkey as well to be included, for these communications channels to stay open, for diplomacy to continue, and just to relax the atmosphere. Sometimes we get lost in the translation, and the messages are taken with, because we are politicians, I mean, we have a big egos. No one wants to be lectured, and no one wants to be told that he's not doing something right. But maybe sometimes it's best to, I don't know, just to do this quiet diplomacy. And that's the best way, with the quiet diplomacy, working behind the doors, and not with this big visits or whatever, to say, yeah, okay, we made a deal. Yeah, you made a deal, but you have to win hearts. And in order to win hearts, you have to start delivering something small, like a little back home.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zovko. I'd like to also bring the question from Murat Yetkin, saying what kind of a positive agenda the panelists can think of when it comes to the quality of democracy, rights, freedom, including press freedom, when they are seen by some in power as a matter of bargaining in relation with the EU? Would like to answer this question? No one?
No, but yeah, I mean, if I can continue. So on the positive, yeah, on a positive agenda, there is a lot to offer on the positive agenda. And this, we have not mentioned this. I mean, I have not mentioned this positive agenda in a trade and in our commercial relations, and in the new, as your interlocutors have said as well, Mr. Sake and Mr. Keyman and Madam Eichhorst, all these plans that we are having in European Union in this green deal in new technologies, and there we can work together. I mean, it's a Turkish emigrant who has found a vaccine. Why don't you make out of that a positive agenda and a positive example on how Turkey, when it's, you know, somebody who does everything, you know, simple citizens, who is well integrated, who is so clever and so smart, has found somebody that no one has found in European, has discovered that the tool to fight this pandemic. These are the examples in positive agenda that we can build a story around. So, I mean, it's a sort of little things that we can start working on in order to appease this really heated atmosphere. I mean, Nagorno-Karabakh, we should work on our shared heritage and how Turkey can help as well. I was ambassador at UNESCO. You know, we have a positive agenda when we are, cherishing the shared heritage in history and religion and everything, you know. Hagia Sophia, come on, show the examples that we have a positive cultural shared history. And these are the small example that Turkey can really use in your public diplomacy, because you are the best. I mean, I don't see, apart from British, that there is somebody so good in public diplomacy and public relations like the Turks. So I think these are the small steps that can be changed. And coming back to the rights of students and civil society, that must stop. This is Turkey is a beneficiary of Erasmus Plus, and we have to cherish young generation. We have to cherish intelligentsia. We have to really be open and tolerant for different opinion. That's the European Union.
Thank you, Ms. Zovko.
Let me say something, Kadri, because what Murat asked, that question was also asked by Jonathan Katz from Washington, GMF, and Jonathan and I talk about these issues last couple of years. You always actually opening new spaces for local governance, civil society. I think our partnership with GMF in Washington was always actually, had all the meetings, we actually placed an importance, the special emphasis on democracy. I'm a realist. I think this, Biden administration, when we did this actually in Washington, the new, agenda, Biden's, talk in terms of foreign policy, American foreign policy, one of the first things that he did was to sign the Paris Accord and everything. And so I think there is a push for multilateralism. And I think it's going to start with that. It's going to start in Libya. It's going to start with S-400s and the other areas. And Turkey will be pushed to actually towards multilateralism rather than sort of unilateral security-oriented, agenda. And in the first part, or the first site, you will see actually the operation of multilateralism, asking Turkey to change its foreign policy strategy and modus vivendi. But at the same time, as Jonathan also asked, the democracy summit, I think the Biden administration, different from Obama administration, learned very much from the Trump years, especially, last couple of months, that, multilateralism without democracy is not going to actually work operatively. You could actually gain certain successes or steps in certain parts in terms of S-400s, in terms of Libya, in terms of Turkey-Greece relations. But in order to make these things sustainable, you have to, emphasize actually democracy. So objectively speaking, more than EU, more than US, it is up to Turkey. It is up to Turkey's governance actually to actually look at itself and Turkey's relations abroad on the basis of democracy. It cannot operate any longer, as far as I can see, as academically and also, as a director of Istanbul Policy Center, where we work on these issues. The transactional relations without democracy are not tenable anymore, as far as I can actually see. So in this sense, we will actually see in 2021 push for multilateralism, yes, from Turkey, but at the same time push for democracy, and then we will actually see what Turkey gonna do. Ankara will do. But Güven and I were talking about a couple of days ago, it is not because Biden signed the Paris Accord that Turkey should sign it. It is good for Turkey to sign the Paris Accord. It should be Turkey's decision. Democracy should be Turkey's decision. Inclusiveness, as Ms. Zovko said, in terms of the way that, governance continues, inclusiveness towards local governance, including towards actually civil society should be the choice of Turkey. Turkey should do it not because of Biden, not because of actually Borrell's, paper on Turkey. Turkey should do low carbon, from low carbon to refugees, from democracy to inclusiveness, because it is good for Turkey and Turkish people deserve this. I think that's what I am trying to say. America is coming back, that's their position. EU wants to have a positive agenda, their position. Our position should be to say yes because of Turkey's interest. But in doing so, I like to actually call my friends to actually see that in the complexity and resilience in Turkey, there are lots of voices to speak like me, to see the future of Turkey, in the transatlantic context alliance, or like, work on Turkish youth, work on the, refugee issues, work on low carbon economic development. yes, there's green Europe. Why not green Turkey? I think, Güven is talking about it. That's good for Turkey. I think we should do these things because it is good for Turkey, not actually because EU is saying so, because, the new Biden administration is saying so. I think that's what I'm trying to say, and that's what I would actually say as a response to Jonathan and Murat.
Thank you so much, Professor. There's a question on the China-US relations and how this can potentially affect the EU-Turkey relations. Someone would like to answer this question? Or I skip, I can go. Another question, what are the drivers of Turkey's de-escalation efforts? Someone asking.
Kadri, if I may come in, I really don't like to leave the questions unanswered. I don't think it's right, and these are excellent questions. Actually, I can hardly keep track of all of them. But very quickly, 2 points. What Fuat is saying, I can fully agree. It has to be the choice of Turkey, absolutely, to open up and to move, etc., etc. And I believe there's now, again, much more thinking going on in Ankara than before on all these elements, which are obviously in our framing linked to the candidate status of Turkey. And to reply to those who answer about positive agenda human rights, you cannot move on the customs union if you don't have progress on how you deal with your people internally in Turkey, the whole human rights, visa liberalization, the counterterrorism legislation. We know all of the steps which are needed to actually come to what we call that overall framework. You call it positive agenda or not. There were different circles but the biggest circle is, of course, the whole accession. That's the biggest circle of EU-Turkey relations that makes us so special from EU-US and Turkey also with China. China is very far and very close, but I do not see it immediately affecting the steps of neither Turkey nor the EU. I believe it's much more on the Russia side where Turkey is looking, because on the different theaters in the region where there is conflict, where there are issues where we are present as well or not. It was already mentioned by Mrs. Zovko, the Nagorno-Karabakh file, and elsewhere. Turkey really sees and has been taking part also in militarization of different conflicts around, like many other actors have too. We are very concerned by that militarization for sure, because we really want to push forward political processes to resolve as much as possible, whether that is in Libya, in Syria, Nagorno-Karabakh. And I personally believe that Turkey has much more interest in engaging on political processes and resolving long-standing issues through political processes than Russia has. Because Turkey is calculating that it is not necessarily in Turkey's interest to leave conflicts out there, frozen, not handled, particularly in the Caucasus. I think, and I saw a question on Nagorno-Karabakh, I believe there is a very joint interest sort of the EU and Turkey to not only respect for ceasefire, humanitarian, and the next steps, but also to work on the status question and not leave this hanging out there without being resolved. It has all kind of implications for Turkey, which are extremely important as well. And I think there are many areas where we can work better together on this. So that I'm not going into China, but I'm looking more in the immediate neighborhood, where I think the equation EU, Russia, Turkey has, of course, many dimensions, very complex, but this was just one of them. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I have to really apologize, but because there are too many questions, but it will be impossible to answer them, and we are just coming to the end. I would love to just give you each, you have already used Ms. Eichhorst, your rights, but to Professor Keyman, Ms. Zovko, and Professor Sak, each 1 minute, if you want to say something, and then we have to wrap up. Professor Sak, go ahead, please. You have to unmute.
Okay. Let me just say that what we need now is a kind of an engagement process that needs to be started as quickly as possible, because for some time now, during all these Trump years, I think that wasn't around, and that created all the problems. Maybe engagement with more strict terms also needed. Let me add that to more regarding the terms of engagement. When I see all those discussions about democracy, human rights, and all those things. But I think what we need basically at this stage, both with our American partners, allies, and allies in Europe, is to start an engagement process. Otherwise, as very lucidly underlined, Turkey felt more and more anxieties, and that led us to act like a spoiler in the region, which we don't know how to act, really.
Thank you. Ms. Zovko, please.
Yeah, to end up on the positive side, I have really great hopes for Turkey and for EU-Turkey relations, and I think that Turkish society is so strong that it can really contribute to make this U-turn. I mean, politicians come and go, but society is there, and it doesn't. It wants to be a part of European Union, and we are here to keep this fire until the society change this approach. And as Mr. Keyman said, Turkey should accept this at its own value, its own task, and its own need as well, to be like European Union is, because otherwise we will really have to deal with the Turkey in a way that doesn't help none of us. So we want Turkey as it is, as we all know to come back and to be the best one when you receive the candidate status. I mean, Croatia has made such a big sacrifices. And just look at what Croatia has sacrificed in order to become a member of European Union. I mean, this small country that I'm coming from, that went through the war and that did all these changes because we knew that it's the best for our citizens. And through this crisis, we value how good and how important it is to be part of a member of European Union, because none of our citizens will be left alone. So this is what Turkey belongs together in this family, but we just want you to show it that you really want to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Zovko. Professor Keyman, please go ahead.
Let me thank you, Kadri and Ian and GMF for inviting me and for having this meeting. I think it's a very, very important meeting. I go back to what Angelina said in the very, very beginning. We have to establish trust. I think trust is very, very important. And last couple of years where we had a stalemate, so that described the relations, we have also a big trust problem. I think we should focus on trust. And Güven said engagement is important to actually have trust, to build trust. Dialogues should be actually dialogue should be the main preference. There are no guarantees, but I think from the civil society point of view, from the Turkey's the point, I think it's a vibrant civil society's point of view. Let me say, I think we should continue, and we should be hopeful and optimistic for future. Of course, realism is important, but I think what needs to be done, what ought to be done, is in front of us, and we should go for it as Turkish civil society.
Thank you so much, Professor Keyman. Ms. Eichhorst, if you want to say something, you have 30 seconds.
From the institutional point of view, from the European Union, we will always keep a long-term strategic view on our relations, and we will never give up trying to keep absolutely the best relation here. And I say this also on behalf of my boss, the High Representative Borrell. We will continue to try to make this a very good relation, which then also will definitely benefit all the people in Turkey and in the EU.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eichhorst. Well, let me thank you to all four of you actually for joining us and making this conversation work. It has been really, really terrific. Ms. Eichhorst, Ms. Zovko, Professor Sak, and Professor Keyman. Thank you so much. And let me thank to my colleagues Anika and Alberto, who helped to put all this together. And above all, thanks to all of you who have joined us today. And thank you and hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you.
All the best.